Okay, I wish people didn't judge books by their covers, but unfortunately they do. So let's figure out how you can use that to your advantage. Hi, I'm Rachel. I'm a writing coach who teaches writers all over the world how to find their writing voice and tell their stories. And in today's video, I'm going to tell you, you guessed it, how to properly title your story so that you find your right readers and they enjoy reading your work. Titling your book is less about finding a catchy title or whatever to tell your stories, and more about how to create a promise for your readers that they will enjoy reading and you can deliver on. Unfortunately, people tend to title their books either carelessly or they don't understand the conventions of titling their books properly. And so when their books flop, they go, gee, why did nobody read my book? And while some of it may be on the marketing side, some of it may also be in what your book is called. For example, did you know that different genres have different naming conventions? Did you know that different names attract different types of readers? You need to be crystal clear on the types of people you want to read your book, so that way when they see the title of your book, they know without a doubt that it's for them. So let's get into some ways you can title your book to make sure, like I said, you attract the right readers, they finish your book, and you can deliver on the promise that your title makes to them as a reader. You want to make sure you get those 5 stars when they're leaving reviews on your book, and this is one of the ways we do that. Titling your book sets up an expectation, and when you fulfill your expectations for your readers, they like you, they read your work, and they want to read more. The first thing I want you to do is to make sure that you understand the genre that you're writing in. A lot of mistakes that writers make come down to the fact that they don't understand their genre properly. They write a fantasy book and they have some dragons and some knights and some magic, but they don't realize that there are crucial scenes that are expected in the fantasy genre. And if they don't deliver on those scenes, then the reader's like, huh, what the heck did I just read? I don't like it. Now, this video isn't about genre specifically, that's for a future video, but make sure you're thoroughly researching the genres you're writing in to make sure that if readers have an expectation, you're either fulfilling them appropriately or subverting them with intention. That's the only way you're going to make sure that you keep your readers' attention all the way through the book. Also, understanding the naming conventions of your specific genre is going to help you make sure that when a reader is looking for a fantasy book, for example, they're finding a book and they know from the title what it is. For example, The Shadow of the Wind. Automatically, that sounds like a fantasy book. And the reason why is because it's the blank of the blank. So for example, a lot of books in the romantasy category are going to be A Court of Thorns and Roses, a blank of blank and blank. This is a naming convention that's come about in the last decade or so. It probably won't be around forever, but it's important to understand what is common right now as you're writing your book to make sure that you are attracting the right reader. The next piece of advice I have to give you is to make sure you keep it short and memorable. The first thing that I wrote and published out into the world is called The Order of the Occasionally Occult or Arcane. And actually, titling my work in that fashion was a mistake. First of all, I can't spell the word occasionally right on the first try, and a lot of my readers can't either. It's just a weird word. And most of the people that I talked to about it only referred to it as the order, including myself. What I realized through the naming conventions of the genre in which I write is that this title was too long and too complicated, and my readers couldn't say it. If they can't say it, that means they can't promote it, they can't talk about it, and it also means that I take a hit because, ugh, that's a mouthful. In shortening it to the order and then putting the rest of the title in parentheses, I made sure that it was easy to reference, easy to pitch in the elevator pitch, and easy for me to write about in future projects. For example, Gone Girl is a book by Gillian Flynn, and it's super short, super concise, super intriguing, and it is very, very memorable. Everyone who hears it goes, oh yeah, I know what that is. All right, so the next piece I want to give you is for titling anything, not just books, but blog posts, Instagram reels, any piece of content you put out there has to have something called a power word. These are words that create curiosity and emotion so that when we speak them or read them, we go, huh, I want to learn more about that. A great example is The Fault in Our Stars by John Green. Using a title like The Fault in Our Stars creates intrigue. We haven't seen those things together before in a sentence, and so I'm very curious what the book might be about. It also evokes a feeling of curiosity, and I want to read more. That leads me to my next point. Naming your book so that people want to read it means naming it in a way that creates mystery or intrigue, or both. So creating mystery is really just creating a title that causes your reader to ask a question. A lot of times in my coaching, I tell my students that the first line of the story, the first line of a chapter, and your title need to make sure that you have your readers ask a question and they want to read more to find out what the answer is. Think about the title of Big Little Lies. Even if you haven't read it, hearing that title is like, oh, well, what does that mean? That seems like a contradiction. It causes you to ask a question and then possibly read or Google the book to find out more. If you're not sure if your title packs a punch, give it to a bunch of readers and say, hey, are you curious about what this title means together? The next piece you need to consider is your target audience. So a big mistake I see newer writers make is they don't know who their audience is. Now, I've talked with writers and they say, I want to reach everybody. Well, that's a great idea, but unfortunately, most books are not going to reach everybody on the market. In fact, the more you can niche down and target your exact audience, the more you're going to be able to find readers and the bigger your work is going to explode. Also, finding your readers in your exact audience means that you know what other books they're reading, and so creating titles that are similar to the ones that they read will automatically help them realize that when they see your work is for them. For example, when I wrote The Order, I didn't know who my target audience was, and it was really hard to find people who read it. Now I know that people who like supernatural, Sherlock, Doctor Who, or any of those sci-fi, fantasy, time travel stories tend to really like my work. It's weird, it's kind of gory, and the title, like The Order of the Occasionally Occult or Arcane, is weird and mysterious, and readers have been drawn to it over time, even though naming it that way was a mistake. Really honing in on the types of people you want to read your work is going to help you have clarity when it comes to naming your work. And like I've said a bunch of times already in this video, when they say your work, they will know it's for them. Another thing you can do is incorporate unique or unusual elements. So, for example, the name of the wind. That's really weird. Why would the wind have a name? It sounds fantastical, it sounds whimsical, and people reading it might be like, huh, if you're a fantastical or a whimsical person, you may want to read it. And so it'll spark your curiosity and get you to open up the book. While you're writing your book and while you are testing out your titles, test it for sound and flow. If you're like me and you name your work The Order of the Occasionally Occult or Arcane, and you mispronounce it every single time you say it, like I have every single time I have in the video, it might be time to change it and find something else. If, however, it rolls off the tongue and it sounds quirky and people are saying it with a little bit of excitement, then maybe you've focused and found something that is really going to work for you. Also, make sure you're doing an originality check. So I like to, when I come up with a title, I Google it in like 28 different ways, search on the internet to find titles that are similar to yours, and make sure that if there is a similar one, that you change yours just a little bit to keep yours unique. This one's a weird one, but it comes from my experience with SEO. Make sure your title is searchable. So when people are going on the internet, what are things they're going to already be searching when it comes to be, about books about fantasy? How are you going to make sure that when they search for books about fantasy, they find you or whatever genre it is you're writing in? That's another piece to consider. Making the books easy to remember, easy to spell, and easy to categorize are going to make sure that it's searchable. If you're not sure what SEO is, I would definitely look into it, do some research. There's tons of YouTube videos about it out there. That's one of the things a lot of writers neglect, and it's going to help you give you an edge when it comes to marketing your book. Ultimately, naming your book is entirely up to you, and if you're set on a title because you like it, I'm not going to tell you to change it, but I will say do a quality test with the elements I've given you in this video. Ultimately, the title of your book is not really about the book, it's about the reader who's going to read it, and finding the right title is going to help you find them. Hey, if you're a fiction writer and you are trying to write your book in 2025, I want you to hop on board with me. Make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel because I post tips and tricks every single week to make sure that your book is the very best it can be. Also, if you want additional help, you can hang out with me on Patreon. I've linked it down below. There's tons of exclusive content on there, how-to videos, blog posts, and downloads that are designed to help you write your book from start to finish. Also, I want to make sure you snag the Complete Novelist Kit. This is a kit that I've designed after working with hundreds of writers to help you write every single piece of your book. And it's written around common roadblocks that my students have had and conquered through working with me. It's also linked down below. Make sure to check it out. This is the resource that's going to help you finish your book with a flair. I'm so glad you decided to spend your valuable time with me today, and I hope this video helped you. In the comment section below, let me know what I need to talk about next time. I can't wait.